We are ready? Okay. At this time, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Village of Warwick Board of Trustees, and I would just like to begin with a note of sadness because of the death of Warren Mac McFarland, former Village of Warwick police chief, back when the Village of Warwick actually had a police force before we combined with the town. Warren was 99 years old. In addition to his service protecting the village, he was also a veteran of World War II, serving his country in the battlefields of Europe. Some of you may think back and remember the Memorial Day parades, and Warren was riding in a Jeep. So that's his mode of transportation. And the board would just like to extend its condolences to his family and his friends. At this time, I'd like to ask you to stand for the pledge, and after the pledge, for a moment of silence. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Cheney.
Here?
Trustee Foster.
Here.
Trustee Clue. Here. Trustee McKnight.
Here.
And Mayor Newhart is absent this evening.
Okay, thank you. All right, first on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes of the meeting of August 21st, 2023. Are there any additions or corrections? And hearing none, I'd ask for a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Authorization to pay all approved and audited claims in the amount of $348,983.17.
So moved.
Second. Oh.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Okay, presentations. Our first presentation tonight is the 2023 Recreation Report, and Recreation Director Ron Troini is here to present that to us.
Hi, my name is Ron Troini. I'm the Director of Village of Warwick Recreation. I want to give you a summary of our 2023 recreation season. This year we had 988 kids signed up, registered for our 8 programs. That lasted 5 weeks during the summer, and we also employed 54 either high school kids or college kids, and some young adults. We had a few website issues at the beginning during registration. We're looking to resolve that for next year, and we're going to make a couple changes to our registration process to make it easier for working parents when it's time to register. Our biggest program was the park program at Stanley Denman Park. Lots of arts and crafts, tie-dye. We had tournaments that went on throughout the summer, basketball, dodgeball, scavenger hunt, talent show. The park being closed during our recreation hours was once again very beneficial to the safety of our staff and kids, so hopefully we can continue to do that in the future. And then our other programs, tennis, football, soccer, cheerleading, lacrosse, basketball, and track were very successful. The track program this year, we had they were doing construction over at the high school track complex, so our staff had to make a makeshift track in the fields behind the middle school, and everything went well. We had Olympic week, handed a lot of medals, so it was another successful summer for that. Looking forward to the 2024 season, and the recreation program would like to thank the village board for all the support for our programs and making it successful for the kids in our community. Any questions on any of the
Questions?
Well, I'll add a comment. First of all, thank you, Ron. People love this service as always. Regarding the website issues, right? So if anyone watching, it was a mess trying to sign up. I sat at my computer for an hour and 45 minutes trying to get my kids registered as well. I did escalate that with the software company that we use, and they finally got back to me that it was a bug, that it locked everyone else out while one person was checking out. They claimed they fixed it. So at least it sounds like they got to the root cause of it. But yeah, so that was rough. came down to technology. It wasn't you, it wasn't Village Hall staff. I know some people were frustrated because it's important to have, an activity for children, especially for working parents in the summer. I agree with your point about changing to another day to register. 'Cause some people, they just can't break away for 9 a.m. on a weekday. Another thought, and we can talk about this as it gets closer, is potentially we split up the registration on a week-by-week basis. Because I'll give you an example, right? My kids were gone for a week of the 5-week program, and that tied up a spot that some other kids could have used, right? So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but potentially we look at breaking it up a little bit more piecemeal.
Yeah, and maximize the time and get more kids involved. Because I know, especially for the park program, we had a wait list of probably about 110 people.
Yeah.
So if somebody's on vacation,
Yeah.
why take the space for somebody when another kid can join the program? Yeah, we'll make a couple adjustments and go at it next year.
But I was assured that the software bug was fixed, so it's.
And there's another change I would like to see, which I think we reached out to the company and they said they were working on it. The website is translatable, but the part where you go to sign up for the programs is not translatable. And I know a lot of parents who English is a new language for them,
Yeah.
and it's difficult for them to go through the process. So I would like to see that change too.
Yeah, good point.
That has
Thank
not
you.
been discussed with the company.
I haven't had that discussion.
Okay, yeah.
I called them probably the beginning of the summer and mentioned it, and they have they had no idea, and they're like, that's something that they would really consider, and especially nowadays is
Yeah.
be beneficial to everybody. So they're aware of it, and they're going to look into it and hopefully be able to make that happen.
I mean, it is municipal software, so that should be something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
on our radar.
yes. Yeah. Any others?
I was just going to say that's, every year it's an incredible program, but also thinking about the proportion of the kids that live in the town and the village that are participating. That's close to 1,000 children. We have 32,000 people in the town writ large, so it's probably 1/10 of the kids or something like that are participating. I'd love to look at those statistics.
Some kids double up, but still there's
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, with the sports programs, they get double. So I noticed from your report that you were able to accommodate more kids in the park program this year than the previous year. And I remember the previous year, the restraining factor seemed to be the number of counselors and the requirement to have a certain ratio. So it means you were able to recruit more counselors. When we had a discussion a year ago, about a year ago this time, that was one of the big issues, and one of the things that you had suggested was changing the age to 15 as opposed to 16 for counselors. I think that's something that the board really needs to consider if you still think that's going to benefit the program and maybe allow even more to participate.
Yeah, I think so, and because now you can get working papers at
14.
So
I think
15 would be good, because I know there's a lot of kids in high school that would like to work, and I said, you could volunteer, help out a little bit, but you're not going to get paid till you're 16, and they're like, go work somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and we definitely increased the number of counselors, which increased the number of participants. And then the other thing, the pool was closed this year due to construction at the high school. So we had a couple of the people that worked at the pool come down to the park, and they helped out too.
And your comment about lifeguards, it's all over the place. You talk to the town, Greenwood Lake, they're all struggling to find lifeguards, the private pools as well. So,
So that would be big.
yeah. But that's an evening program, right? So.
No, that's still in the morning.
Oh, it is in
Yeah,
the
they go
morning.
from 9 to 12 o'clock.
Oh,
Yeah, and we use a high school pool.
okay.
So yeah, that's something we're going to start working on to try and recruit.
Yeah. Good luck. All right, any other? It's all right. Again, thank you very much. It was a great program this year. I know the mayor echoes our sentiments, and we look forward to resolving some of the issues that you raised and moving forward and make it bigger and better next year.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Thanks, Ron.
Okay, next we have a presentation by Jewel Power. Good evening.
So I guess I'll plug right in here. Very colorful HDMI. Great.
Is there any sound?
No. No music today. Okay.
And let those.
All right.
Glenn, maybe I can set the stage
Yes,
real
please do.
quick.
Thank you.
So we had one of Glenn's colleagues out at the beginning of this year to really introduce the concept of community choice aggregation. And, you know, we had a number of competing priorities. I thought now was a better time to have a presentation about CCA. Just for context, so some of the effort that we're doing with the Climate Smart Communities program and the Clean Energy Community program, community choice aggregation for purchasing power on behalf of all the residents in the village, ideally to move towards renewable electric power, is something that the state has prioritized as an action that they're trying to get a lot of the municipalities to come on board. So I talked to a couple other of our neighboring communities. They're a little bit further down the road in this process. I figured it was better for us to have a restart. And so thank you for being here and helping us understand.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Tom. That's a good introduction. I'm Glenn Weinberg, by the way. I'm the Vice President of Market Development at Jewel Assets, Jewel Community Power. As Tom mentioned, I think my colleague Peggy was here several months ago. So what I wanted to do tonight is to come and give an update as to where we are. I will sort of review the basics because I know it can sometimes take a couple times. But I'll try to go sort of quickly through that and concentrate on sort of more what has changed or what the updates to the programs that Tom is referring to here in the Hudson Valley. So first, Jewel, our vision really, affordable clean energy for all. We approach that in a number of ways, a number of different service offerings and products that we offer here in New York State and in other states as well as in Europe. And here in New York State, we concentrate on community choice aggregation. I'll go sort of over the what and the why of community choice aggregation in a moment. But really, it's a program that allows small customers access to energy markets and specifically renewable energy markets that they've previously been excluded from. So there are a number of different products and offerings and markets that large customers can access, large users of electricity can access, and have been able to access for a couple decades that really have been sort of off limits for small customers. So the basic concept of community choice aggregation is to bring large numbers of small customers together in an aggregated buying group at the municipal or intermunicipal level, and bring those customers out to market, so to speak, as a way of commanding A, a better price, B, a more renewable and cleaner energy product than is available through the utility and other suppliers, and C, to protect consumers and sort of drive a customer-driven contract and contracting process and competitive contracting process in order to get better terms across the board for everybody. That's really the basics of CCA. We, Jewel Community Power, we represent 56 cities, towns, and villages here in New York State in these community choice aggregation programs as their municipal consultant. In 2022 alone, our customers in our CCA program saved over $18 million. It provided, especially during a period of very high inflation and high volatility, these programs provide price stability in addition to renewable content that's not available through the utility. They provide a fixed and stabilized price that allows customers to save a lot, and on a per household basis, that's $300 or $400 a year, which is quite a bit on energy bills, to protect against those sort of inflationary market conditions that we saw within the last 18 months or so. And just in this year alone, we signed 25 new renewable electricity contracts for our clients, and we'll be signing even more a little bit later this fall. So again, the what is community choice aggregation, just to kind of, it's essentially a home rule authority. So in New York State, community choice aggregation, or CCA, you'll hear me use that term, they're interchangeable. I know it's a mouthful and not a great acronym, but it's a regular, in New York, it's established through regulatory authority, right? So there's regulation that allows cities, towns, and villages to, through their own home rule authority, establish a CCA program. And you do so first and foremost with an enabling local law. So a piece of local legislation that is simply, it's non-binding, it doesn't say the village must do this or will do this. It's just establishing that authority. It calls upon, you'll see that in the template local law, it calls upon your home rule authority, referring back to the state regulation that says we can do this as a village, a municipal corporation here in New York State. We're allowed to do this if we so please. And that's a non-binding first step that just sort of gets you into the game. And then from there, it's always the village's ultimate decision whether or not to move forward. I'll talk a little bit about the process, won't get too deep into the process itself, but just to say that along the way, at each milestone or at each checkpoint, it's always the village's decision to keep going or to stop. I should probably finish the definition. It's a home rule authority that allows municipalities to select the default energy offerings on behalf of their residents and small businesses. So today, of course, if you move into town, right, and call to set up your electricity and gas service, you will automatically be put on ORU's default service, right? There's a basic variable monthly service that ORU provides, and if you make no other choice, you'll get defaulted into that service. That's the current state, the current default. What CCA allows you to do is say, no, we don't want ORU to pick our default energy mix, which is, again, variable monthly, and I'll show you a chart in just a minute that shows the sort of the volatility that we've seen, especially in recent years, which can be very difficult for consumers. But rather, the village will, in this case, say, we'd like to select where our default energy comes from. Specifically, we may be interested in sources that are, for instance, in New York State and clean, renewable sources like hydro and wind and solar from New York State. And we'd like to offer our customers a stabilized or fixed rate rather than a variable monthly rate, right? So all of those sorts of offerings or rate options are not available through the utility, but by enabling or by activating their CCA home rule authority, the village can select those sorts of offerings as the default. Why CCA? Again, the majority of the 56 municipalities that we represent in New York are hiring us because they're interested in renewable energy. Not all, but the majority. That is really the sort of number one tool, or CCA is the number one tool for enabling or accessing renewable markets, especially for residential customers. Two, again, cost savings. I told you a little bit about the performance recently of our programs in the last couple of years. Because the aggregated nature and the purchasing power behind it, it allows us to yield more competitive rates than are available otherwise to consumers. 3, again, strong consumer protection. This is a contract. It's a municipally, our contract has now been vetted by, I think, 50 plus municipal attorneys. It's been through the ringer. It's been through dozens of these bids and these processes. This is a contract that comes from us, not from the bidders. So unlike if you were to go shop for electricity on your own, you'd be signing some supplier's contract. You may read it, you may not. Most people don't, right? But there's all sorts of legal terms in there that you probably don't or the average customer doesn't understand. This is a protective contract at the municipal level. There are no individual contracts or any legal obligations at the individual level whatsoever. And again, it gives another choice for consumers. It does become the default, but it is another choice. All of the existing choices are still open to consumers, so they can stay with the utility should they choose to opt out of the program, or they can choose any other supplier that's available to them. It just becomes an additional choice in the division. CCA is a tool that's been promoted by New York State primarily to serve the very ambitious goals that we as a state have set through our now law, the CLCPA, which mandates 70% of our electricity here in New York State be generated by renewable sources by 2030, and 100% be carbon free by 2040. So if we have any chance of making meeting those goals, it's going to be communities and municipalities at the local level driving. And that's why New York State has put so much effort to promote and to create a pathway for CCA. It's working, so 160, this is actually a little bit of an old map. There's many more pins that need to go on this map, but 160 plus cities, towns, and villages have enabled community choice aggregation programs. And together, CCA customers make up more than a third, now it's getting close to half, but more than a third of the total competitive renewable market in New York State. So these communities and the customers are standing up and saying, we want renewables, we want to help the state meet its goals, and it's been very effective to date. Just sort of, again, this visual sort of tends to help people think it through a little bit. What CCA addresses is the source of the power, which is what most communities and most residents are really interested in. The delivery and the transmission and the delivery of power, the reliable provision of power, the maintenance to the grid when there's an interruption, the power goes out, all of that is still the utility, right? So that's still ORU. You still call ORU if your power goes out. If there's something wrong with your bill, they still read your meter. They do all of that traditional utility work is still very much ORU. All you're doing with CCA is choosing where you're getting your power from, not who delivers it to you. And this is sort of that same concept reflected on your actual bill, right? So if you look at your O&R bill here, on the left-hand side, these are your supply charges. You have a supplier. If you're sticking with the default today, your supplier is ORU. If you choose in your own supplier, that's where your charges would be. The right side of your bill stays precisely the same. The delivery charges still are exactly the same. CCA does not impact the delivery part of your bill, and that is still the responsibility of ORU. You still get one bill in the mail from ORU. The left-hand side would just reflect the new supplier. So on this side, this is the CCA customer. You'll see your new supplier is Constellation New Energy, CCA. On the bottom there of this box here, you see there's that message that gives the customer, make sure the customer understands this is your CCA for Rockland Community Power, which is the program name of our group of municipalities in Rockland County. So this is as I mentioned, this becomes the new default. So it is what is called an opt-out model. So everybody eligible that does not opt out will be automatically enrolled. right? Everybody will get an opportunity to opt out well in advance of the program launching. There's many different ways to opt out. They can opt out by phone, by email, by web form, by a prepaid postcard that comes in the mail to every eligible resident, and they can opt out before the program begins or any time thereafter. There's never any fees or penalties associated with opting out or for coming back in, right? So you can jump out and jump in as much as you like. There's never any fees or penalties associated with that. And it does address a number of problems that we have seen in the electricity markets in New York State. Some suppliers are known for aggressive marketing, teaser rates where the rate stays low for the first couple months and then balloons up. What's called slamming, where folks are sort of enrolled without their express consent. It addresses a number of those challenges and creates a major climate impact. Think about the impact you can make from a greenhouse gas or carbon footprint perspective by moving an entire community off of fossil fuel generated power to New York State renewable power. As I said before, no individual contracts, no exit fees, fixed stabilized rates. You can opt out at any time. A bit about programs right here. Our 56 communities are sort of spread all the way across the state, but just to focus on the programs that are most local here, there are two aggregated groups here in the Hudson Valley Community Power and Rockland Community Power. You see they've saved about $17 million from the start of their programs, average household savings in the $300 range just in the last couple of years or so. This is a combination so Hudson Valley Community Power in Central Hudson service territory, Rockland Community Power here in ORU territory. They've seen about very similar performance with very strong savings, and the vast majority of customers are on a 100% New York State renewable product. This is the performance of Rockland Community Power versus ORU's variable. You see this red EKG line here. That's ORU's monthly rate. So you can see it could be 10, 11, 12 cents one month, 6, 7 cents the next month. Very unpredictable, highly volatile, and steadily creeping up, especially in the last 18 months or so. Those two fixed lines toward the bottom of the chart, the blue line reflects the 100% New York State renewable price, and the orange line, a little bit less expensive, is the standard rate, which does not have enhanced renewable content. Both of those options are available to all customers. They can freely move, again, between those options as much as they'd like. Obviously, if they'd like to save a little bit more money, they can enroll in the standard product. If they'd like to support New York State renewable energy, they can enroll in the 100% renewable energy product.
Glenn, how does the last year look? That's not on the chart there.
They just started. We don't have the new. This was the contract that they just finished up. They started a new contract this year, so we don't have this up here yet. But as we go a little bit deeper into this contract, we'll have a little bit more performance there. Other questions before I move on?
I think Tom was asking about the ORU variable rate, like if you have any information about.
This year started out quite high. It's been a little bit lower, and then we expect that by the end of this year it's going to go back up. What we're seeing right now in the forwards is that by January, February, it's going to get utility rates across the board are going to get quite high.
What's the current kilowatt hour rate?
You know, are you?
Yes.
I'd have to look that one up, but because it just changed, it would have just changed September 1st. So I'd have to. But you can, yeah.
It's public info?
Yeah. You could look on their website, or you can look on what's called New York's Power to Choose, and you should be able to find it. But if not, I can find it quickly for you.
Sure. I'll get it.
As Tom mentioned at the top here, this program is incorporated into NYSERDA's municipal funding programs, the Climate Smart Communities and Clean Energy Communities program. A renewable CCA contract actually scores you the most points of any action for the Clean Energy Communities program that you can take, period. It's like 1,500 points. There are some actions that are like 50 or 100 or something, a CCA renewable contract, because of the impact it makes on carbon emissions in a community is the most that you can earn for any single action. In addition to community choice aggregation, Jewel offers a suite of consulting services, especially related to municipal development of solar and battery storage projects. So for instance, if you had a capped landfill or other brownfield site or a large rooftop, we provide consulting services. I won't sort of get too sidetracked on that today, but just as a sort of FYI that we can discuss if you're interested in those sorts of services. It's really, this can be a quite a long process to get set up, 6 to 8 months from start to finish. There's a public outreach period. There's a procurement phase, of course. There's an enrollment phase. The goal is it's really our scope, really A to Z. We come back to the municipality, to the village at a number of important points for your review and approval of various documents and various sort of next steps, including awarding the RFP to a supplier. But you never pay Jewel for our services. We get paid only if there's an energy supplier that's awarded, and if there is, we get paid from the supplier, never from the municipality and never directly from the customer.
And my understanding from a prior meeting was that all the suppliers have to pay the same amount, so you're not incentivized to use any particular supplier.
Exactly, it's in the RFP, this is the fee, it's no matter what, no matter who wins, they can't bid each other up, they can't use that to try to get a leg up on another bidder. We are a consultant of the municipality, pure and, so we are aligned with your interests. And even though we are incentivized, or we're compensated when there is an award, actually in about half of the bids we run, we make a recommendation not to award because we feel the market conditions aren't quite right. We often advise to wait. Like for instance, here in Rockland County, we ran a bid in the fall. Market conditions weren't quite there. We advised to wait 60 to 90 days. We did so. The second time around, prices were much lower. We went ahead. So in many cases, we do award. We do recommend not to award if we're not seeing the value there. We represent over 800,000
Hang on,
workers.
so then how do you source the power if you're not awarding it to a company?
Well, there would be no program until we do.
I see.
Yeah. Yep. So if we feel that the time is not right, or we're seeing trends in the market that we think waiting could benefit, that's the recommendation that we would make. 99.5% of the households that are enrolled in our programs have saved money. The 0.5% is a sore subject. Don't bring it up, but no. We're very proud of that nearly all of the customers enrolled in our programs have saved over time.
You said earlier that average savings was around $300 per household per year. And I think a year ago when we talked to Peggy, I got the sense it was like $8 per month, which doesn't.
$8 per month might be the equivalent of, on a per customer basis, of what our fee is. No, that wouldn't be right either. That'd be about $1 a month. $8 a month would be about $100 a year. Mm-hmm. So not terribly far, but these are the real figures from these periods. So you see here in Rockland, it's actually closer to a 2-year period. So maybe that's what.
Oh, a 2-year period.
It's for November 20 to October 22.
That actually makes.
So it's about $170 or $165 a year.
Yeah, but Hudson Valley from the period July 2021 to July 2022 had $290.
Very strong. Yeah, that was a very strong. It performed exceptionally well, that particular project.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I seem to recall there was something to the effect of on every resident's bill, $1.
That's what I thought you meant. So it's not on the bill. The rate is an all-in rate. So right when bidders bid, They bid one single rate. That's the rate that shows up on customer's bill. However, baked into that rate, they know that they're going to have to pay us our administrative fee. And that equates to about $1 per customer a month. So so it's not a separate line item, it's not a separate charge on the bill.
I understand.
It's just factored into their
Juul's making money from their administrative fee from the power supplier. They pass through around $1.
They know that when they
resident.
bid that they're gonna have to pay us that, so it's factored into their.
It's like a pay to play, kind of. Like they're paying, well, not pay to play like New Jersey, but they're paying you in order to participate in the collective bargaining.
Only if they win.
Yeah,
So
if
it's
they
just, it's an administrative fee that's paid to us for managing the program, right? But it will come, no matter who wins, will pay. And the rate that the customers pay, right, still has to be lower than whatever price that you establish as your threshold, even with that fee factored in, right? So the customers still save, as you see, the customers are still benefiting, and that's how we are compensated, right, for our work.
Who dictates that fee?
We do.
So another company similar to you could have a lower fee or a
Yeah,
higher fee?
Yeah. Mhm. Just a bit, and I believe this might be the one more content slide. Just a bit about the outreach process. This is a really important part of the process. So when you start, there's an initial public outreach campaign that Juul manages. We ask for the village's collaboration on that, but that is a campaign that we do across a number of different media, old media, new media, print media, digital media, to make sure that as many people in the village know what's going on, have an opportunity to learn more, come to an information session, call us, ask questions, email, all of that, right? And all of that precedes the energy procurement process. So we go through an extensive outreach and education process before we even run that bid. So that folks know what's going on in the village. They don't think the village is trying to do something without informing them first. And then on an ongoing basis throughout the life of the program, we provide a Monday through Friday 9 to 6 call center, helpline, email, customer care center. We continue to do additional information sessions, come to meetings like this and give up program updates, et cetera, et cetera. And then just, again, the two next steps. One is to enable the village to go forward, is to pass the local law. We can provide a template local law that we like to use. You can also look at any number of other laws that other municipalities have used. That's your prerogative, whatever law you like best. Again, it's non-binding, it's purely enabling. It just authorizes you to get going. And then the second is to select a program administrator. We of course hope you choose us. There are others, you can speak to all of them. Our agreement is similarly non-binding, meaning when you hire us, you're not saying we will sign a contract, right? Or we will award an RFP. You're saying, okay, Juul, go ahead and do your work and come back to us when you have some bids, essentially, right? It's of course more complex than that, but you can still say no. You're under no obligation to accept any of those bids, to award the RFP. But if you do, right, then you're signing a contract that says you'll use Juul as the program administrator, because that's of course the most typical length. Some are longer, some are a little shorter.
And once you're in the 2-year contract, before you had mentioned that an individual household could opt in or out at any time, no penalty. So where does the 2-year contract come in? Is it the municipality's engagement with Juul, or with this energy supplier?
Actually both. So it's a tri-party contract, but you got it right. So there's a tri-party contract that's signed. It's a 2-year deal saying the municipality will offer this as the default for 2 years. The supplier is committing to offer that price for 2 years, no matter what.
Yep.
And we're obligated to run the administrative portion of that for 2 years. But at the individual customer level, they can choose to participate for a month, 3 months, 10 months, the full 2 years, none, right? Or periodic participation throughout the 2 years.
So there are easy ways for, if someone just, maybe they first get the idea that they want to do this and then for whatever reason they decide they want out, right? How easy is it for an individual to back out?
We really, that's a real, principle of ours, that we make it very easy. Again, it's a phone call to us. I want to opt out, no questions asked. They provide the information. They can email us. There's a program website with a form, right? That takes 2 minutes. It's just name and account information. They can get out that way. They can even call the utility. That would work too. But we really make it. It's our goal to make it as easy as possible. We're not trying to keep people in a program already.
Can you go back to the informational outreach slide that you had?
Sure.
Right there. So, initial education campaign, super important, right? That's getting a hold of as many people as possible. One thing that we've learned is that you need multiple mediums to get a hold of people. That makes sense to me. The ongoing education and customer support, does that kick in after, let's say, you found a deal that works for us, that works for you, that works for the supplier? What sort of ongoing education to help customers understand not only the potential savings, but also the impact that it's having on with consuming renewables instead of fossil fuels?
Yeah. So the heart of that is, I always talk about it. I know I get yelled at for sports metaphors, but I always think about it as sort of offense and defense, right? So the primary ongoing support is really about defense, meaning people have questions, we need to be there, right? Like I said, Monday through Friday, it's not an outsourced call center, it's all Joule employees. We staff it, we train them, we train the employees, we manage it day to day. We don't outsource any of that because this is some pretty complex material, and it's not something that you can easily outsource. So people have questions, we want them to come to us. It's our number, our phone number, our email address on all the program materials. We want as many of those questions to come to us and not to Village Hall. Some will come to Village Hall, just because people want to pick up the phone and speak to you directly. They may not know who we are. But it's our goal to bring as many of those questions to us on an ongoing basis. But in addition to that, it's, like I said, it's information sessions. We've done educational seminars, understand your electricity bill, what is understanding renewable energy in New York State, those sorts of things, some ongoing education courses. We provide a lot of program updates to you, because often people will go to the municipal website, or if there's a newsletter or something like that goes out, or e-blast or something like that, people are more likely to read it. Or if it comes in the notice about the park program that everybody wants to sign up for, they're more likely to read it than if it comes from us. Because we provide a lot of material to the municipality for you to distribute through your own channels. That's really effective. Social media, we're very active on Facebook and other social media platforms throughout the life of the program. We do a lot of specialized presentations at the senior center, at the library, in an ongoing manner. So we're always trying to continue, because people move out, move in, right? People may have come in during and they weren't here for that initial 90-day period, and now they don't know why they're getting a letter in the mail about this program. So we really make it a point to continue to be very active in the community throughout the life of the program. And Peggy Kurtz, who was here last time, she's local here, or she's in Rockland County, but she's fantastic, and she's like the best with this. She's so responsive and runs she's running all over the place, doing meetings and phone calls all the time. So she would be your sort of go-to person.
Sorry.
Like,
Keep
I had, so who is ineligible for this? I know that people who sign for ESCOs.
Yeah.
Can you say a few words on
Sure.
that?
So there's a few categories. People who already have an ESCO. Those that are enrolled in a utility bill assistance program, the most known is LIHEAP, right? So it's a utility bill assistance program for low-income customers. So if you're enrolled in that, then you wouldn't be enrolled in the CCA automatically. Those that have what's called time of use rates, right? So if you have a special rate offered by the utility, so some people, if you have a smart meter on your house, you can enroll in what's called a time of use rate, which means that you pay less at night and more during the day, and you can. So any folks that are enrolled in that sort of program. But the one thing that I want to say about eligibility, because it's a very common question, if you have solar on your roof, you are eligible. If you have community solar, you are eligible. The reason for that is that the way those solar programs are set up in New York State, even if you have solar on your roof, that's not your electricity supplier. I know it's counterintuitive. People say, I have solar on my roof, I get all my power from solar. In reality, it doesn't quite work that way. Your supplier is still ORU, unless you choose otherwise. So you can still take advantage of the CCA even if you have solar.
Because they would tie back into the grid and credit versus debit. And
Exactly. So like when you have solar on your roof, really what you're doing is 2 transactions every month. You're selling ORU power and then you're buying power from them. And they do what's called net metering, which is they cancel a bunch of that out and then just charge you for what's left over. But in reality, every month you are a buyer and a seller, not a self-supplier or something like that.
yeah.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have
Sure.
some. So the ongoing advisory services, can we talk about
Sure.
those a little bit? Because I
Yes,
was
please.
curious as to the guidance on all things solar energy storage and EV charging. Is that part and parcel of what it is to be contracted with Joule, or do we pay for that in addition to?
It is, so that the principle of you never pay us carries here. So if we get paid with these services, a typical case would look like is you have a parcel, a site that's a village parcel, right? A landfill or something that you think, oh, that would be good to develop some solar on, right? What we would do is we would do an initial assessment of the site to make sure it's viable. A lot of sites they look great, but then you find out that there's no real way to connect to the grid, or the slope is too much, or there's various things that could disqualify a site. But we do an initial assessment to make sure that it's a viable site. Or if you say we'd like to do solar, but we don't know what site, we would evaluate. You give us a list of sites, we'd evaluate them all and come back to you and say, we really think you should start with this one. This one's the best one. We would then develop an RFP, so similar process, but we would develop an RFP. We'd put it out to all the solar developers in New York State. We have relationships around the state with all the solar developers, so we would make phone calls and promote them to bid, and get people involved and aware of the opportunity. We would then collect the bids and make a recommendation or present the bids and make a recommendation back to the village. We really think this is the best proposal, and here's why. And only then, if you then go ahead and select a developer to work with to actually build the project, then they would pay us. They would pay us essentially like an origination fee, or like a finder's fee.
And it's the same model as with the source provider, that this is something that's, like there's no more payment that you get for picking any particular entity. It's the same,
Yep.
and that's regulated.
That fee, the fee itself is not regulated. No, do you mean like?
The mechanism, like the fact that you're not being paid more by others, or that's just in the contract.
It's just our protocol, yeah.
I have more questions.
Sure.
So, and right there it says help with maximizing available funding. I'm really curious about how this intersects with NYSERDA's plan for the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund and Solar for All. Because I know that at least one application is guaranteed per. So for the rest of the board, the Solar for All program through the DOE is doing it. There's $7 billion available, and every state is guaranteed at least one funding application. And so NYSERDA is submitting an application, and that the program is designed to speed solar provision to low income. So I'm interested about that, like, you know, what you know about that and how that might come into play here, because, you know, I know that NYSERDA is a fan of the CCA program, and, you know, so, and then the other piece is the extent to which we could get some support with elective pay and the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yeah.
Because, so for the board, the Inflation Reduction Act is, they're allocating $270 billion in tax incentives for clean energy and related activities. And there's 12 different incentives that local governments and tax exempt entities are eligible to participate in. And so I'm assuming that, you know, if Jewel is supporting with the identification of opportunities for solar, and then when we have solar, and we invest in that buy-sell relationship is going to happen with Orange and Rockland. We submit and potentially get reimbursement for that through the IRA. And then how is this relating with the Solar for All? Because another thing that I had heard last year, and I know I'm throwing a lot out at you, but
That's
I'm
okay.
sure that this will come together. Last year, I heard that the state was also considering doing a guaranteed utility price reduction for those that opt into the green energy for the CCA. And so I was wondering if there had been any advancement with that, and if that could, if that is whether that's rolling into this as well.
Yeah, so, okay, so let me first take the IRA. So, the IRA, you got it, you know, obviously you very knowledgeable on this, you got it exactly right. There are a lot of tax incentives that are available, and the key of the IRA is three things really. One, is it locked in? So there's been tax incentives for solar for a long time. They were diminishing over the course of time. They then reestablished a base rate of 30% tax incentive, which is great. So 30% of the total cost of the project you get back. And the key there being that tax exempt organizations are eligible for direct pay, meaning that it is not, you don't have to have a tax liability. It used to be that you'd have to have a tax liability at least that large in order to get that credit. Now they'll just send you a check essentially, right? So if it's an $8 million or $10 million project, you would get $3 million back in essentially direct pay for tax exempt organizations, which is incredibly.
Well, and there's also the production tax. So like that would be part of what we would need to evaluate, is whether or not we want to go after if we're producing a lot of solar energy through whatever we end up doing, whether we want the investment tax credit or the production tax credit.
Which could be substantially different, as you.
Yeah, they could be
you showed.
substantially different.
Most municipal projects the investment tax credit tends to make more sense, largely because of the size.
Okay,
So-
because they're not big enough
Yeah.
like the commercial ones.
That's right, and you set it up in a slightly different way, which could actually benefit residents here in the village. There's a number of different things, and we can sort of go through them. There are also in addition to that 30%, there's also additional 20%, for instance, if there's low income participation, 20% if it's on a brownfield. You could stack these things, they're additive too. So and we just ran a webinar on this a month or two ago. I'd like to send you a copy of that,
Yeah,
because I
that'd
think
be
you'd be really interested. The Solar for All, as I understand, the guidance isn't quite all the way released. There's been sort of guidance that's come out along the way about low-income eligibility and things like that. So the answer to that is we don't know precisely the interplay quite yet. It's kind of, we're getting close, but we're still waiting, I think, for some guidance there. But we advise, when we say maximize the funding, that's exactly what we're talking about, right? So we sit down and say, here's what you can get, here's what NYSERDA would give you. For instance, NYSERDA will give you $200,000 in what's called pre-development funding, right? Just this sort of work.
Is that
Planning
through a
project.
PON?
What's that?
Do we have to submit a PON for that?
Yeah, there's a PON for it, but we would help you, apply and get the money. There's $200,000 right there from the state. There are additional state incentives. Now there's big federal incentives. These projects pencil out in a way now, in a you know, smaller projects make more sense than they used to. The larger projects make more sense than they used to. So there's a lot of opportunities, especially for tax-exempt institutions that were really kind of not quite there even 12, 18 months ago. So that's very much a core part of that service. Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you. I have
Before, so we're not in an area that's where municipalities are aggregated in a group. Would we become part of Rockland, or are we kind of an outlier on our own?
So Highlands and Highland Falls and Tuxedo Park are all clients of ours in the program. So there's a number of Orange County communities that we're working with. You wouldn't be part of Rockland community just because it wouldn't make sense, but you'd be part of essentially a similar buying group that would then, so the larger the buying group, for the most part, the larger the buying group, the better price that you can command as together. So we would sort of fold you into that buying group to get the maximum benefit out of the sort of collective.
So we would collectively be doing the same thing at the same time relative to establishing an agreement with energy provider.
That's right. You'd be bundled with municipalities at a similar stage of the process in a similar territory, in a similar geography. Yeah, that's right.
Glenn, can you please email me an extension of that rate chart you showed before? Because that ended in November 2022. Can you show it to current if you have that data?
Yeah, sure. I have to put that together, but yeah, I can
That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
And then
I'd
versus
also-
the
sorry.
Then versus the there was a renewables line, and
Yeah.
slightly beneath that was just same old fossil fuels, but aggregate buying power.
But fixed fixed through the CCA, exactly. Yep. So
Yeah, that'd be helpful to understand that rate
sure.
breakdown.
Yeah.
I'd also like to see a sample of the contract.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let me just take a quick note.
I have one from last October, unless it's changed, which it may have.
It actually has a little bit, and I might as well just send you the latest. It's
Thank
just
you.
as easy.
Yeah, I'm curious about the consulting services. Like, is there like a number of hours a year?
No, again, it's really just about bringing the project to, I mean, our model is,
The outcome.
our compensation is that when
Based on the project
yeah,
outcomes, yeah.
we understand, that upfront consulting fees can be difficult for, a lot of municipalities, so we've sort of crafted all of our models to be supported by the third-party supplier or vendor when they're contracted.
And the savings that you noted in the one slide, the annual savings, what's that benchmarked against?
It's benchmarked against what they would have paid had they stayed on utility basic service.
Okay.
Yeah. So Tom, I know it was Peggy's information there, but Tom, I know at least you have my information. So and then maybe you can share it, and maybe I can just right now I think I have Tom's information. If I send it to you, Tom,
I'll distribute it.
because I'd like to get you the
Webinar.
contract, the data that you're asking for, Tom, as well as the webinar
Yeah.
recording. Yep.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah, thanks,
very
Glenn.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
This is
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for your
coming.
time.
Okay. Next, it's not
start
on
the
the,
meeting?
it's not on the agenda, but there is a discussion topic that I need to bring forward. The mayor and I have discussed it. We received a charge adjustment request from MREX Chemical. They were the provider during our last contract period, which ended May 31st. For a number of chemicals that we use at water and wastewater plants. This specifically was relative to their delivery of potassium permanganate, and they had bid it for the year at $1.80 a pound, and they sent us a letter that was dated May 25th. I'm not sure when we received it. That was the date on the letter, contending that they had a market price increase due to supply shortages, and that they were declaring force majeure on the contract, and asked for a cost increase, or said there was a cost increase of $2.65 a pound. So about 85-cent increase on the $1.80 we were paying. They made a delivery on same date, May 25th, 2023, and they then invoiced us at the $2.65 per pound. It was either $2.65 or $2.85. And so we paid the invoice, but we paid it at the $1.80 per pound rate because that's what we had in the contract. The difference between the prices and the quantity that was involved is about $1,440. And I spoke with Steve Gaba, and he said that what they described is not applicable to force majeure, so that's something that we should take his advice on that. Amorex is asking the village to consider.
I'm sorry, he said it's not applicable to force majeure, right? It wasn't a hurricane or something like that.
Tornado or
they decided to raise the prices because they had trouble getting raw
Yeah,
materials.
I don't know whether there was. I don't know what the circumstances were relative to the supplier, but it seemed to be more associated with supply shortages than anything. So basically, we have a couple of options in front of us. We don't have to decide tonight. We can leave it as is with a payment of $1.80, certainly within our contractual rights to do so. We could agree to accept the new price, and again, it's for this one delivery and one delivery only. They did not win the bid for this current year. Sorry, I didn't mention that earlier.
Wait, so they're not our...
They are not the
Regular
current
supplier?
provider. They were the provider of potassium permanganate last year. They didn't win that bid this year. In fact, I think something within their organization happened that they failed to even bid on any of the chemicals for us this year. And
So why are we
they were
still paying
providing
them?
3. Well, we're not still paying them for anything other than this last delivery that was in May of the last
So
contract
before the fiscal
period.
year started.
So basically, 3 options. We can leave it as is with the payment of $1.80 per pound. We can agree to accept the new price, which I've got it down here twice in 2 different numbers, $2.65 or $2.85 a pound, or which is about $1,400 difference, or we can offer something in between. And so I just wanted to put that out there for the board. Any discussion that could direct it. If we do decide to do anything but the $1.80, it would have to be a motion of the board to do that. And so probably we wouldn't have that for tonight regardless. So just your thoughts as to how we might move forward.
Did they notify us of this price change before doing the delivery and then invoicing?
No. We got the delivery on 5/25, and as I said, their letter that we received, and I'm not sure when we received it. I can check on that if we know, because it wasn't date stamped. That we need that delivery was, in all likelihood, that delivery was not preceded by any notification to us, to our knowledge, that it was that there was a price increase.
Yeah, because then we would have had an opportunity to explore other options and so on and
Yeah,
so
if,
forth.
right. If we'd have known, we would have been able to decline the delivery, hang out, because we didn't really need to get the potassium permanganate maybe until June 1st, and could have done it under the new contract.
And that $1,400, that's like a speed detector. That's like additional signage. Yeah, it sounds like from my perspective, they didn't follow proper notification procedures that would have enabled us to avoid the cost, and they need to honor their contract. That's my perspective.
Tom?
Yeah, I mean, that's, you don't deliver something and say, I want more money, and try to claim force majeure in the contract. That's not how you do business.
What was the mayor in your
consensus.
perspective?
Same.
Okay.
All right. Okay. At this time, we have our first public comment period, and that has to do with agenda items only. So if this is about an agenda item, we would entertain public comment now. If it's not, it'll be later on in the meeting.
I believe I'm on the agenda. It's the Walking River Center for Dogs.
Okay, all right.
Thanks for having me. And us.
If you'd like, we can hold on this until we get to that motion, and you can present it as part of that motion,
Okay.
which won't take too long.
It'll take like 2 minutes.
Thanks.
So-
It's the second motion.
So,
Thanks.
so,
I
so
sat through a lot of interesting stuff here. Thank you.
yeah. Number one, motion to approve payment number 3 in the amount of $9,338.69 to TAM Enterprises, Inc. for the South Street Sidewalk Replacement Project for work that includes installation of curbing, sidewalk, and retaining walls per the recommendation of Village Engineer David Getz. Funds are appropriated in Budget Code A 5110.4400 in the fiscal year 2023-24 budget. Could I get a second to the motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? I'm sure everybody's sees what's going on and to some degree is inconvenienced. I figure I'm going to finally remember that it's closed going that way the day before they finish and take that detour down.
When do they estimate it to be complete?
They are estimating to be complete with this between 3rd and 2nd and a little bit up 2nd Street by September 30th, so the end of the month. The curbing was poured last week. They were removing the forms today.
I saw that. That looks
So,
good.
yeah.
Are they going to also pave the portion
Yes.
of the road?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all part of the
Yes.
fee.
Yeah. Yep. The disturbed area between the curb and the pavement. The new curb.
Are they done consuming several parking spots at the park?
No,
That's ongoing.
that's not going. I think they cut down because all the block that was stacked there is no longer in a parking spot.
I mean, it's a little concerning because they have some big vehicles there, and I see people going around it and people also walking in that same exact area.
Yeah.
It creates a blind spot, and it's kind of the worst place to park there.
Yeah, maybe they could move it. Maybe that's something we could.
Well, you could move it further down along the basketball court, maybe. I don't know. We can look into that.
It just creates. I mean, it's at an intersection.
Yep. Yeah.
It doesn't.
It's a good flag time.
Yeah, they moved most of the block, right? So they still.
Blocks,
Are
I
you
think,
there?
pretty much all gone. But they've got their trailer, which has all their equipment in it, that stays there. It needs to stay there until the project's complete. So. All right. We didn't vote yet, did we?
No.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's carried. Okay.
Motion to
And-
grant. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead. No.
Motion to grant permission to the Walkill River Center for the Arts to use Railroad Green to hold a public art event on Monday, October 9th, 2023 from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. with setup to begin at 7 a.m. and breakdown to be completed by 3 p.m. Request includes setup of a pop-up tent, table and painting easels on Railroad Green, where a quick draw competition will take place. Request also includes pre-registered artists to be spread out across the village with portable painting easels for a 2-hour painting session to be displayed and judged on Railroad Green. Completed park permit, security deposit, and proof of insurance have been received.
Okay. Second. Thank you. All right. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. I'm Gloria Vanelli. I'm president of the board of the Wallkill Center for the Arts. Some of you may remember us as the Wallkill River School. We're in Montgomery on 17K in that historic brick building just outside the village. This is the 8th year, I believe, for the Hudson Valley Plein Air Festival. So it is a curated program where artists are invited nationally, internationally, if they wish, to apply, and they are adjudicated in. This year we have 45 adjudicated artists. So those artists pay a fee, they come from all over, and it's a week-long program. And there are also artists who can tag on as, I forget what we call them, but they're artists who don't take part in the adjudication process or whatever. Usually it's working people who can, squeeze in a few hours here or there, or it's people who don't feel the quality of their work is quite up to the level of the juried artists. And they pay like a daily fee or a smaller fee. The quick draw is really a very special, my favorite part of the whole thing. And this year it takes place on the first day of the festival, which is October 9th. And so it's a very short, very active, very fun, really great for public access. The artists come, they sign in at the table early in the morning, and that's when most of the artists first come to sign in. And they get their canvases stamped on the back. That has our stamp of the date and the festival for this year, so we know that painting was painted at that time. Because they can't bring in paintings, that have already been done.
Can't sneak one out of the trunk.
No,
huh?
you can't. So it's a quick competition. They sign in, and then they spread out, and they can go anywhere in Warwick that they want, as long as they can paint and be back in 2 hours. And it's extraordinary if you've ever seen it. The work that comes back in 2 hours is just beautiful. So they just go out, and people run into them all over. They come back to the green. They set up sort of in a semicircle wherever it's convenient on the green. The judges, and one or two of the judges will be local folks. You guys can recommend somebody to us if you like. And then a couple of artists. They look at the paintings and they judge them, and there's money, awarded to the artists. And that's it for that day. So usually it's bing bang boom, we're done. We'll be cleaned up, I would say by 1:30. Frankly. The good thing about it is it brings people to the village. They come and they have lunch, they shop, what have you. It rotates. Last year it was at the winery. It was at City Winery,
Okay.
just down the block from us.
Yeah.
We had about 40 artists. This year we have 45 artists that have been adjudicated in. So last year we had 40 artists at the paint out, and then they had lunch at the winery, and then discovered the winery, and they bought wine, and so now the winery loves us. So
Right.
they've invited us back, and we said, well, we can't do the same thing. So what we're doing with them is we're doing a nocturne, which is also one of the competitions, which is the best nighttime painting. So they're doing nocturne painting there. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
What was the date? Monday, October 9th?
The 9th.
Typically, because that is a holiday, it's very, very, very busy in Warwick. So I just, if you have people coming in from all over, just
Let them know.
there's going to be a lot.
You're going to get started pretty early.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I'll be sitting out there about 6:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but still,
Parking.
it'll be
Especially
interesting later on,
2 hours to run
and
and
so yeah.
Yeah, but usually a lot of them won't even get in their cars. They'll just spread
Okay.
out.
All right.
It's
a lot of-
really, there's so many, they could paint along the stream there, there's a lot right
There's a
here.
lot.
Yeah, there's the old school Baptist meeting house,
Yeah.
there's stuff,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff
Yeah.
they could walk
And
through.
actually, if you like, and if you have a map you want us to give them, because, they get a nice goodie bag when they sign up. we're glad to put anything in there.
Oh, like a little map of like
Yeah,
suggested
like,
areas.
Yeah, or historic places or
Historical
anything.
Society
Oh,
have
yeah,
a
the
brochure.
Historical
Yeah.
Society would love to.
Yeah,
Give some
yeah,
reach
so,
out
you know,
to-
we'd be happy to grab those or have somebody come and grab them. I
Yeah.
would say it would be good to have 50,
Okay.
you know, between 30 and 50.
And the community center also has a garden that's beautiful. The pawpaws should be blooming and playing, right?
The pawpaws,
The
yeah,
pawpaws.
they're not ready to pick yet, but they're
That'll
close.
be like a 15-minute walk.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
a
I mean, some people, do get in their car and drive off and go, you know. There's some people that are very
Ten.
brave, I mean, it's, you know, it's a lot of
It
fun.
depends on what
kind
you're
of
lugging, I
rushing
guess.
down.
Yeah,
And the interesting thing is that they bring a frame and everything.
Wow.
So when they set up their easel, like at that judging time, these
Yeah.
paintings are done, I mean, they're wet, but they're done and they're framed, and then the artists stand there and people go through. And like you said, if it's a busy
Yeah.
holiday time, then you may have buyers, which is what,
That's good.
you know, the festival hopes for,
And there's
because,
the cemetery. I'll write a list.
yeah.
Good,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
That's a lot,
you know, we'd be
yeah.
happy to take a list of places,
Yeah.
or a map, or what have you.
And I think the mayor
I
would
did
like
not
to
bring, the other sheet, but this is our, you know, request for, but it gives you the information, so that's why I'm doing it. However, if any of you are a business and you want to sponsor, we would love to have sponsors.
It's such a fun
Thank you.
event.
It really is. And then we have a big reception at the end of the week where 100 of the paintings are hung. It's really, we like stay all night and hang the paintings and they're still wet. And we have a big reception with food and a demonstration and, yeah, we put up a huge tent on the side on our parking lot.
Okay, nice. Very nice, good.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. Any further questions from anyone?
No, but I was gonna suggest
Thank
the
you.
mayor as a judge if you think he would be.
Oh, that would be great.
I hate to volunteer him if he's not here, but.
Hey,
Yeah, that would be great. You know, I'm happy to, we'll
why
send
don't,
an
Mary,
email.
why don't you,
Jennifer, are we in touch
Talk
with
to
you?
him.
We've been emailing you,
Yes.
right? So we'll send you an email about that.
Yes, that'd be great.
So that would be at 12:30.
it's a good
you know.
idea, Mary.
Yeah, if he arrives at 12.
Yeah.
There's a little talent there.
Yeah, he would like it.
That'd be great.
Right, yeah, and I'll also, Jen, if you wouldn't mind me, well, is your information on here? I'll reach out to our local historical society too, and they can give you some.
That would be wonderful. So I have Jennifer's email address, so
Okay.
and then you can forward.
I can distribute, yeah.
That would be wonderful. Thanks so much,
Good.
guys.
Thank you very much for
And
coming and
now
thank you
you.
for honoring us with your organization.
Oh, sure. You know, we have so many members here. We have a lot of
Yeah.
connections
Good.
here. So
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. We need to vote on it. Is there any further discussion?
No?
Okay, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried.
great, thanks. If I may, off the record, we are looking for people to house artists.
Okay.
For since COVID, we haven't done that.
Oh,
But now we have like, I think about 8 artists looking for housing. So
Okay.
Jennifer, you can let Jennifer know, you can reach out to me.
yeah.
Great.
Janet Fata used to take care of our housing situation, and she should probably be hosting.
Yeah.
more.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Okay, public comment, non-agenda items. Bless you. All right, final comments from the board?
I have a few updates.
Yes.
One is why are you laughing? One is that we're going to need to update our memorial policy to accommodate some of the things that are happening in the Veterans Memorial Park master plan. So I just wanted to advise the board of that. So for example, you know, right now the memorial policy covers memorial trees and memorial plaques, but there are sort of different types of memorials that may be possible. So we'll very minor adjustments, and then also wanted to get with the new shade tree commissioner to talk about the types of trees and sort of maybe gear the policy to be more focused on placing trees that match the habitat and ecosystem needs of an area. So that And then also, the Veterans Memorial Park Master Plan should be coming to the board in its final form very soon. The survey was completed for Veterans Memorial Park, and so we're just waiting for the landscape architect to integrate all of that and provide us with the final. And she did provide the survey to us, so we have that. Also, the mayor and I debriefed with USDOT on our RAISE grant. So as you all know, we did submit an application in February and we were unsuccessful in that submittal, but we did debrief on it and we had some really excellent feedback. And so there were 1,100 eligible applicants and they were only able to fund 162 projects. But the Village of Warwick, so there was $2.2 billion available in funding and over $15 billion were requested. And the Village of Warwick was actually highly recommended for funding. There were only 347 that were highly recommended, but then they could only select 162. And one of the key final criteria was geographic proximity.
Like distribution.
Geographic distribution. And as you know, Kingston, Kingston and us were pretty close together.
So they knocked us out.
Yeah, so that's my understanding. And we were rated high in safety, environmental sustainability, quality of life, mobility and connectivity, economic competitiveness. They actually said that they were really impressed with our application. They said that they were surprised to see, like they don't usually get a highly recommended for a first time applicant, which the village was. So I think they are going to release the notice of funding opportunity again around the same time, like November or December, and we will hear back on Safe Streets for All in that window. So so it gives us an opportunity to, if we're not successful there or if we're partially successful, we can roll into RAISE. And I think we just need to follow the same formula that we did last time. And then there was only one area where we had gotten like a partially complete on our financial completeness assessment. And we walked through it together and she said that we actually should have gotten like full credit on that because it was a very thorough response. So that was really cool. And I just want to thank everybody for, everyone contributed to that application and we weren't successful, but I think we learned a lot. And, USDOT is now aware of the village and what our needs are. And we've now spoken with multiple folks in that, agency. So that's just, I don't know. I'm feeling all right about it,
And you should. As you pointed out, it was our first bite of the apple, and it was a successful one. We got a lot of feedback, good feedback, and I think we're positioned well. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have two more quick updates. So the comprehensive plan advisory group, the comprehensive plan committee met last week, and that those have become sort of more. They're becoming better attended by members of the public. We actually had, I think, 5 or 6 members of the public attend that meeting. And the main topic of discussion was actually zoning. And what the committee discussed was a joint session of the ZBA, the planning board, developers, and the public. And the idea would be that we would have an open meeting, a technical working session with users of the code, aka the ZBA and the planning boards, and the development community, and they would discuss, we would talk about the comp plan, the goals and the vision, but also discuss areas of issue with zoning, with project review, and opportunities for improvement. And then we would also have an open meeting and a technical working session to discuss certified local government. So those would be like 2 kind of working sessions. And the timing of the meetings we discussed is that that planning secretary position needs to be filled. And then we also need to plan that in light of other public engagement and listening sessions in the fall. So I wanted to make sure that was on your radar and something for us to discuss during a future board meeting, maybe. The mayor was in the meeting, so just advising everybody else. We also had some really neat, good public comments, interest in the Climate Smart Communities Task Force, so I think you can expect some attendance at that, and interest in accessory dwellings and other things that I think will definitely come up during the those technical working sessions. And then finally, just a quick update on the New York Forward and the DRI. The mayor and I met with the Economic Development Council about the possibility of submitting a DRI with the villages and the town, and we've determined that we should plan for that submittal next year, because that'll give us some more opportunity, that'll give us a better opportunity to plan it together. So we have not historically been able to go after DRI because it's a larger pot of money than would be appropriate for a small rural community, but when we are band together, we could potentially pursue. And so the purpose of the meeting was to see whether or not that was even an option. And the call was encouraging. And also we think that we'll be able to submit something much more competitive if we have more time.
Okay.
So that's it.
All right, good, thank you.
Well, good
Thank you.
Mary, anything?
I don't have anything this week. Oh, actually, the village newsletter is available as a PDF on the website. I'm going to share the information on Facebook, but you should have received it in your mail or in where you get your mail, and it is available as a PDF on the website.
Very good. And I've gotten lots of good feedback. People, well, this is great. It's nice to know what's going on. So that communication mechanism, as far as I'm concerned, has been really well received
Good.
from feedback I've gotten. So thank you.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you for everything you did on that.
Thank you for everyone.
Tom, anything?
Yes. So on Wednesday, September 13th, is the next Climate Smart Task Force meeting here at Village Hall. It's been publicized. I've gotten several calls about it. People are welcome to join. One of the topics I want to cover is that earlier this year, I benchmarked the energy consumption of the village's government operations. That was one of the Climate Smart high impact actions, they call them, that we received points for. Part of that went towards our bronze certification. But in that process, I mean, look, we use a lot of energy. Our waterworks facilities, which is the water treatment plant, the microfiltration plant, and the pump stations, makes up about 33% of the greenhouse gas emissions. The wastewater treatment plant is behind that at 28.5%. Then there's at 26% is the administrative facilities, which is Village Hall and the DPW garage, and then at 12.5% is the street and park lights. So part of that benchmarking was to put together really a greenhouse gas emission inventory, which is a bit of introspection to help us understand how we are impacting the climate and energy consumption, and where can we lower those. So if you look at what New York State has as their goals, and the gentleman from Joule Power mentioned a little bit this earlier, is that there's a mandate in New York State to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 40% by the year 2030 and 85% by 2050. So pretty aggressive. And on the heels of conducting this inventory, we're strongly encouraged, being part of these programs by the state, to have a climate action plan specific to government operations, which means let's take a hard look at where are we consuming the most energy, what are some of the things we can do to reduce those targets. So I put together a draft climate action plan that looks across all of these areas. What are some of the things we're currently doing? what are some of the reduction targets we can hope to achieve. This isn't committing the village to anything, but it's really just establishing some targets. What are some of the stuff that we should be doing and what time frame to make an impact? And for example, some of the work that we're doing with converting all the street lights to LEDs, that should have a considerable impact right there. I also forgot to mention our fleet, our DPW vehicle fleet. We have 32 vehicles. They use quite a bit of gasoline and diesel. So over time, we should expect as these vehicles start to age out, and I have an inventory of the vehicles and the age of these and the odometer readings, as they start to age out, we should look for opportunities to replace with alternative fuel vehicles, whether they're hybrids, full electric, hydrogen. You know, there are some options, and if you go back to what Carly was mentioning earlier, with some of these government incentives, we could have a third or so of these vehicles paid for through rebate, which hopefully would offset or more than offset the cost, you know, if we're going to go in for more DPW vehicles. So it's something that I want to bring up. Again, I tried to capture all of these thoughts, all of these strategies in the plan. It's not committing us. It's not as aggressive as a state, because part of this is we don't have a full understanding of what the impact is. I know we're in the process of upgrading our wastewater treatment facility, but it's got higher capacity. It's likely to use more energy, right? So what are the things we can do to help offset that? We're currently working with Orange and Rockland as part of an initiative that they have, which is called the Non-Wires Alternative, which is great to help look at some of the water pumps across the village and to detect, is there an opportunity to use something like a variable speed pump that's not always running, but it's on when it needs to be, right? There's a lot of little things that we put them together can add up. So I tried to capture as much of this as possible in this plan. I want to review it at the next Climate Smart Task Force meeting that, again, is open to the public. But I'm putting this out there. I'm welcoming feedback. It's not one person putting this together, but a lot of this has come from a string of various conversations over the past year, and talking to a lot of different people about what we can be doing. So anyway, that's my update there. I will post a non-approved draft on the website so people can see it.
What time is your meeting?
To look at my calendar.
Wednesday.
6:30 p.m.
Wednesday.
Wednesday the 13th here at Village Hall. But this really should be a community effort to really think about this. Now the next part of this is we are assisted by the Hudson Valley Regional Council, local regional organization that is offering assistance with some of this stuff. So there is a cohort starting in, I believe, later this month, where we're going to do the same type of greenhouse gas emission inventory, but for the community. So basically, they, on our behalf, are going to pool the electric and natural gas consumption out of all the dwellings in the village. So that will be kind of interesting to see as well. And from there, then just like we're doing a climate action plan for government operations, there will be one for the community. And so when we start bringing in conversations like community choice aggregation, is all starting to dovetail together, because there are targets set by the state. We're doing some good things. We definitely are standing out in the top 7% of municipalities in terms of being certified, but there's a lot more that I think we can do. So
Good.
That's great.
Okay,
that's my update.
Thank
good.
you.
Any questions for Tom? Okay. There's no executive session tonight. That's one of the benefits you get of having me here.
All right.
So with that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barry.
That's a good meeting.
That's a good meeting.
I'm used to my meetings lasting about 15 minutes, in all honesty. So whoever.
We had a lot to talk about.
We do.
Are we off?
No, yeah, yeah.
Oh. Good thing I didn't continue.